We're talking about Daniel's butt right now.
A great butt when I was fat.
Daniel's. All I was saying is anyone's butt shape is way more important than butt size. And I'm not denying that you didn't have a good butt shape. I wouldn't really know. I didn't really judge it.
You're missing the point. The shape is primarily the size of it, I feel like, until you get to this point of where you're like very fat. And then it just starts to like bleed over, and then it's like, whoa, holy cow. Man's got a little bit, I said man's got, but I was just, she-man got.
I would say your butt before looked like it probably had cellulitis on it. Now it looks like a normal butt. Isn't cellulitis where it's so big that it like almost has cottage cheese looking indents all over it?
That's like just the fat cells.
Yeah.
It's like you're
horribly unattractive.
Are big enough. Yeah.
That would count as butt shape. Like if I were to outline your butt, I'd have to go.
Hey, you got a weird definition of butt shape, dude.
No, I know that in general, butt shape means the overall tightness and bubbliness of the whole thing.
Yeah,
I know.
And I'm saying that my butt is a top tier butt in my opinion, and I've done the tests to see this.
What kind of
it's
tests?
gotten smaller, and this is bad.
Daniel, let's hear about what type of tests you've done with your butt. What type of tests?
Listen, bro, when you get a nickname in high school from girls as Bubble Butt, and you get girls coming up in high school, coming up and grabbing your butt, saying, oh, nice butt, dude. Nice butt. We're like, oh my gosh, dude. Daniel, such a bubble butt,
You just become proud of your butt.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably would too. The same type of thing happened with my eyebrows, I think. I got a lot of compliments on my eyebrows, and I became like, I was like, I guess. And now it's like, I guess I am kind of proud of my eyebrows. But only because it's not based on me being able to actually judge that. It just has to do, like, that's one where I had to base it on the number of external compliments I got. I feel like with your butt, you were probably more able to judge it yourself with your own standards.
No, not at all. When I was like in middle school, I thought that my butt was too big. And the reason that I'm fighting for this fact that it's gotten worse is because girls started saying that it's like, yo, you have a nice butt. And then it's like, okay, now I need to change my definition, right? Because it's like, who cares what Daniel thinks about his own butt?
Okay.
In middle school, I didn't like my butt. But then in high school, I got attention for my butt, and then that's when you started liking it. Because if girls are giving you attention for something,
I guess so.
You have to just change your preferences and be like, yes, this is better.
And so
this is better. A big butt is better.
So you're saying now that your butt does not look like that anymore, it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm only assuming because I haven't gotten any feedback, and I can only assume that that's a bad thing.
Yeah, but what if the rest of your body surrounding it has also proportionally changed to where it still
I mean, the rest of my body has definitely gotten more attractive. It's actually interesting going through life and then not just instantly repulsing females. I would say that's a benefit for sure, dude.
Have you noticed the difference in female attention?
Oh, absolutely, dude. Absolutely, dude. I get like, like when a girl is looking at you and then you think, this is a very common thing for Eli, but you 100%. Think that girl likes you, or like finds you attractive at least.
Something about the way she like is looking, or her eyes, or maybe her intonation of her voice.
Eye contact of like, you can kind of like see her looking at different parts of your face or whatever it is. Anyways,
tracking.
People do that a lot more, and I think just verbally, I've gotten a lot of compliments from people, that's actually nice because I didn't know if that would be something.
Yep. No, that's
when something good happens to you, you don't always know if people around you are going to be super happy for you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if people would like bring it up or just not talk about it. Because like I'm sure people like have to compliment you if I bring it up. It's like a social standard.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
If I bring up my weight loss.
Yo, I lost this much weight. People are going to be like, good job, no matter what. But if you're just going about life and someone goes, hey, man, did you lose weight? It's like, whoa, that's a way better thing because it's clearly noticeable and a good thing.
Did you know the very first person to notice my weight loss was a customer at Trader Joe's?
Really? A customer? Wait, had they seen you that often?
Yeah. I mean, I see customers, like, we have, like, some regulars at Trader Joe's that I literally see every day. Weird. Very
so
weird.
One of them noticed. That's crazy. That's cool.
Yeah. But then like there's one lady that walks in and she's like, "Oh my gosh, have you been working out?" I was like, "Sure have been." But it's also like sometimes ladies just kind of say that, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. But it's still like, you know, keep track of that. Remember that in case it happens more. And then I'm sure it did, because you lost so much weight that tons of people have complimented you by now, I assume. Yep. But yeah, that's awesome. I think that your weight loss and your specific character arc of losing weight is one of the most, probably the coolest thing I know of that you specifically have done. And I'd say in the top 5 coolest things that anyone in the squad has done, as far as what I respect. Like Jarrett's music would be in the top 5. His pursuit of that and effort put into it and time put into it. And then, dude, this is going to sound weird, but Drake's YouTube channel is one. Even though it, you know, analytically didn't get big or it didn't last long and he stopped and things like that. But the time he did put into it and the amount of videos he did make and the multiple channels he has and different things like that is like super respectable to me.
Interesting. Now I want to hear other ones. This is very interesting. Like moments in for just the lives of squad members, saying like things that they've done that are very, very cool.
Yeah, and I guess when I say top 5 squad, I also mean everyone I know. I'm including Trinity, and I'm including Ethan, and I'm including everybody I know. Like, I would put Ben Triple-Ez, obviously his YouTube thing. Anyone who has YouTube is a big one.
That Jesse's probably, right?
Jesse's is top 3 probably. I mean, that's insane. He got so good at After Effects. His best edits are way more effort than I've put into a video, I think. I think it looks like they required more effort than I think I've ever put into a video. And so that's just pretty cool. And I'm sure, 100% sure that he's way better at After Effects than I am at Premiere. And he does say stuff like, I really want to learn Premiere. I got to learn Premiere. That would help me so much more. And I think the same thing about After Effects. Like, if I could just learn that program, so many cooler things. I could do so many cooler things. But dude, it's insane how good he is at that and how much time he spent on it. That's a good one. But
you guys are doing CGI for our skits, you know?
Yeah.
Start adding in some fireballs randomly. It's
like, whoa, holy cow. Alien coming in, like, grabbing props. Dude. Exactly. So besides YouTube, though, this is a good question. I'd say Ethan working out, Ethan's, like, commitment to exercise is pretty cool because his main job is already difficult enough. You know, I'd say it's, like, on par, if not harder, than like Davin's flooring job when he had it, because Ethan roofs, and he still makes himself work out after work every single day, and like that's top priority, and that's just crazy to me. And like I've been telling him about my different hobbies and ways I want to spend my time, and he's always surprised that I have editing and exercise as equal priority on there. He's like, why would editing be equal? I'm like, listen, dude, you just trust me, okay? I get it, but he's like, dude, body is more important than anything else. That's the only thing we have through our whole life and all of this. I'm like, dude.
Body, ew. We don't got body for the rest of our lives. That is unreliable.
Well, he's like, if you keep good care of your body perfectly, then you'll last, or, you know, your capability physically will last as long into the future as possible, like as old as possible. And he was comparing his grandparents on the Brown side, which have had like quadruple bypass, shattered multiple bones from falling over, have to use walkers, have to have in-home help, compared to his grandparents on his other side, which are still hiking and dancing, and they're older than his other set of grandparents, and they're doing super physically difficult things, but they're older. And so he was trying to say, like, it's their diet and it's their exercise their whole life and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm sure it is, you're right. But yeah. I would rather my body completely deteriorated at like 60, but know that I released a video every week. Like, for me at least. And so that's just like, yeah, priorities, I guess. But it's still cool to me that he prioritizes that so much, right? He's clearly going to be healthier. But let me think of more. I mean, Andre, I don't know. So Andre seems like it's cool what he's doing with music. right? Or audio, I mean. And it does, surely he knows way more than me, right? And the position he's in with his job and everything. But I'm not 100% like, it's hard for me to gauge how good he actually is at that, just because I know so little about that subject, if that makes sense. So he might be really good at it. And if he is, that's another super cool, respectable thing to me. But if what he's doing looks complicated and is actually pretty simple, it might look exactly the same as it looks right now. So I don't know if he's actually good at it, if that makes sense.
It seems more complicated than like what I do for work. So I would definitely say that would be one for me that's like a cool thing that a squad member does. But also, gotta say, dude, your editing, that's very impressive. The amount of time that you've spent on editing, wild.
I know, but I think one thing that makes that somewhat less impressive is that a lot of that time has been spent doing the same pretty simple editing techniques, if that makes sense. Like, I haven't broadened my amount of types of edits and things like that I can do very much. And I have, of course, from when I started, a ton of stuff, right? If you look at it from 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I can do way more. But I feel like I could have expanded way, way, way faster. One thing I can do is the basic edits I can do really, really fast now. It's like the main stuff. And I remapped.
That's important to think about, because like Jarrett, I don't think that any like specific thing that he does is like insanely complicated, but he's so good at making like a beat very quickly and like cutting it and editing it and like putting all the vocals together and stuff. Like, dude, watching him work, he flies through things, and watching you edit videos it's the same way. And so it's like, even if it's not like a super complicated individual thing, you've gotten like the basics down so well that's like you have become like an expert at editing. And think about just how weird it is that you from like this hobby are probably just as good, if not better, from people that do this like full time. I would like genuinely guess.
That's stuff I've thought about, and it's weird watching like an advertisement or something, because it's almost impossible for me to watch movies and stuff now without thinking about transition sound effects they put in there and, you know, types of cuts they're making and stuff like that. And like, there's so many advertisements and stuff from like insurance companies or whatever where I go, dude, that ad would have been so easy to make, but they're acting like, you know, there's stuff flying through the background like on a green screen and you know, people walking in front of like these floating logos and like this, and it's like, that'd be so easy to make. And so it makes me wonder, if at this skill level, if I could get a job of like what a professional skill level could be. But something that's funny to me is I remapped all of the hotkeys in Premiere like a year ago to where I can keep my hand in the gaming configuration on WASD. And so I keep my left hand on WASD and my right hand on the mouse, and I fully edit like that. And now and then I'll have to reach over and hit something else on the keyboard, but so much of my stuff is remapped to just my left hand being able to reach it that I think that's one thing that's made me way faster, is doing that. And then, because if you hold shift, then you can make all of the keys remapped to something else. Holding control makes all the keys remapped to a third thing. So I have 3 layers of mapping on the left half of the keyboard, just so that my left hand can hit every hotkey for it. And it's pretty sick. I like it.
Yeah, that's a very efficient. It's weird watching you and Jarrett do your guys' thing because it's so quick. It's like any like computer thing like that, watching someone do stuff on the computer quickly, very cool.
Yeah, dude.
I don't know why, and I know it sounds dumb, but it's like the amount of like transformation to something that you're able to do with the computer, it's so quick. And like seeing people do that, like people that are good at Excel is another one.
Oh yeah.
Like people that are really good at it, and that's another one that you are good at. Dude, it's weird watching people do it because they fly through. Like the captain at our store, he did a sales compared to last year in Excel. And then for like individual products and how they increase in their sales, and then like averages and percentages and stuff like that. And then like color coordinating it, where like a negative percentage would automatically come out as red, and like all of that kind of stuff. And those people are so talented, and they get crazy stuff done with like such a small amount of time.
Excel is one of the weirdest. It's crazy how useful of a tool that is. I think that almost everybody should learn it in like high school, because it's transferable to, I'd say, every other part of life. Like literally stuff that has nothing to do with a computer. If you didn't know anything about a computer but you knew Excel, I still think you would use that all the time in your whatever type of lifestyle you have where you're not using a computer. Even if you were like a vegan yoga instructor, you would use Excel all the time. I feel like, at least. Maybe it's a orderly, analytical personality that would use that as much as I'm thinking. But
I think it makes certain processes so much easier. Like the fact that it will automatically do calculations for you, and all you have to do is just input like external numbers. Dude, wild.
Yeah,
it is such a powerful tool.
Yeah, it's crazy. I love Excel. Everybody should learn Excel. Dude, my dad, he's a drafter. He draws like blueprints. Like the way he works on AutoCAD, so it's a black void, right? And then he's drawing lines and making sure they're correct measurements and stuff. And then when he sends the blueprints in, they copy what they're building after the exact numbers that he put in there. Like it has to be 3 feet long right here, or this pipe has to be 12 feet thick to hold up this structure, stuff like that. And obviously engineers have to look at it once first, and if anything goes wrong, it's their fault, not my dad's, right? But at any company he's worked at, he's always been the fastest drawer. And he said the reason why is because in that program, you can write these things called Lisp routines, where a giant command that would take like 3 or 4 different commands put in to do a certain sequence. If you have to do that sequence all the time, you can make it a Lisp routine, which is basically just turning like 10 commands into a hotkey where it's just one click and it does all 10 of those. And that he said since he was like, for the last like 12 years, anytime he had to do a sequence like a second or third time, he would just turn it into a Lisp routine. And now he has thousands of Lisp routines. And he has them all memorized, and he has to import all of them into every new computer he uses at a different company, his Lisp routines that he's written. And it's always made him be the fastest writer at any company he's worked at. And so he keeps getting companies to call him and pay him more if he'll come work at their company instead. It's happened like 3 times. And so the speed at which he gets raises is way faster than the average person in his career because he's faster only because of his Lisp routines. There was even companies that wouldn't let him use them before, and he just wouldn't work there. So, nope. Companies that were extra worried about cybersecurity and don't let you import your own stuff into a computer, stuff like that. But that's a weird one because that's watching him work, like what you were talking about, speed, watching someone just do something because of those Lisp routines. He can have a black void and be like, hang on, I got to send this project to this guy and get on there. And he's just like clattering away in this weird way. And there's lines just going building stuff so fast. It's like, yo, how, because he'll do 3 buttons and that's putting in like 5 lines. Do like 2 or 3 more buttons and it's just building it super fast. It's crazy. It's pretty cool.
That is cool. Something that like Jordan Peterson talks about a lot that I've thought about is like finding something that you can be really good at and then just becoming extremely proficient at something and doing something like with as much expertise that you possibly can. But then like those things, and there's a part of me, and this has been like this overarching theme in my life, but like trying to find what that is, dude, because I wish I had something like your editing or Jarrett's music or your dad's CAD or someone else's Excel or something like that. And it's like, oh yeah, that's just a weird skill or hobby that I have that I can just do something insanely fast and very productive at one thing. Because for a long time, what that was like CSGO or a video game. Because it's like I could do things in that really quickly. I was very proficient at that. But that's what happens when you put thousands of hours into a video game. But it could have been a hobby or a skill, but
yeah, that's a common question that I get people sending him because I watched his whole Q&A playlist, and a lot of the questions that people send in is, if you don't know your passion, how do you find it? Or if you don't know what career you want, how do you find it? Or if you don't know, basically that question is, what should I spend all my time doing? And so he says that the best way to find that is to have a goal that whatever the closest thing you know of is, and even though you're sure you won't be that passionate about it, on your way to that goal, on your journey to becoming proficient at that thing, you'll experience enough of life that you'll change your goal slightly more accurate. And as you're going toward that, you'll change it again, and you'll keep changing it, but it's getting closer and closer to that thing. And through, as long as you don't fall into any kind of loop or cycle of work where you're no longer experiencing new stuff or learning more, as long as you keep actually pursuing something different and learning more, you'll eventually find the thing that you're mega passionate about and that's so fun to you that it'll be easy to put in thousands and thousands of hours. It'll become easy to. It won't feel like a chore if you keep learning and searching and going through all that. And I strongly believe that. I definitely think that's the case. That's one reason I'm going to college, because like aerospace engineering, that's what I'm going to go to college for right now. But I'm pretty sure that the day-to-day hours of an aerospace engineer would suck pretty bad and be pretty boring. It seems like it, as far as what I know from that career. And so I'm planning on, during that pursuit of getting there, that through going to college and taking all these different types of classes, I'll eventually either see a different career that I go, yo, the day-to-day hours of that look way cooler and way more fun, and I'll switch. And right now I'm guessing that that'll either be in the AI field or the psychology field. Those are the two I'd be willing to switch into.
Psychology.
Yeah, dude. And those two I'd be willing to switch into, but if it happens to be something like video game developing or something where right now I don't feel that passionate about it, but suddenly I go, the day-to-day hours of that guy seem like the funnest thing ever. Had no idea that job would be that fun. I'll gladly switch into it. But that's his advice. That's literally his advice on finding your passion, finding what career you want. And I've tried telling Ethan that too, because he, more than anyone I know, has less future thought than anybody I know. It's crazy to me. It would stress me out too bad.
You're saying that would stress you out? Like if you had as little...
Yeah, having no... I think I'm probably too far to the extreme, though. I think I put so much thought into the future that I don't appreciate the present enough. And I think one of the things that results in is me not retaining very many memories, period, of just day-to-day life. Like my whole childhood, I have so few memories of it. And like Trinity has tons of memories from before we were like 10 years old of times she saw me in Halfway and interacted with me hanging out with Josie and Emily. But she was at one of my birthday parties at one point. We were in the same class in first grade. All this stuff, I'm like, I don't remember any of that. I don't remember, like, I have tiny memories. And I think it's because I was constantly thinking about the next, like, I'm only doing this to get to this point. And I always thought that would be a useful paradigm because it would drive you, to, your focus on this goal. And I do still believe that, but it's kind of what you were talking about one time. I associate this idea with you. It's like being more appreciative of the present and what you have currently, what you already have, and what relationships you already have and where you are in life right now. Because the whole saying about life's about the journey and not the destination and all these different things, it's like, I know that to be true logically, but it's so hard for me to actually do that. And
like practice that.
Yeah, and practice that. And so I've tried to lately, and it's just, I don't know, like on a day-to-day basis right now, I'm thinking about like, gotta make sure I sign up for college. I'm trying to get the next belt in Taekwondo. I'm trying to, like, it's always about the next thing I'm trying to do. And I'm never just able to just chill. Like if I'm chilling, watching a movie with Trinity or whatever, it's me going, okay, I am putting in the recommended time into my relationship to maintain a healthy relationship so that long term I keep the relationship healthy. And it's just so like I do enjoy it. I don't want to sound like I don't have fun in the present, but it's like, I don't know, like Trinity lived with me for a year at my mom's house, and I don't know how much of that I'll remember in like a year or two from now. It's like big events I retain, but then the more time that passes, it has to have been a bigger and bigger event for me to remember it. And so,
yeah, I mean, I think people would relate with most of that, but I wonder how much of what you're talking about is like a personality thing of just like maybe Trinity just has better memory. Because I also don't have like tons of memories of childhood, it seems like. But I do know people that just like, they seem to remember smaller events much more easily. And there are like weird things that I'll remember from childhood, like very small things, but not like general stuff that people, I feel like, usually will bring up. But yeah, I don't know how much of that would actually be your focus on the future versus your memory.
Yeah, maybe, that's true. Maybe I have an average memory and I just feel like I don't, but memory definitely isn't by any means. Like something weird to me is like, it almost seems like because of how unreliable memory is in general, like not only do you not remember everything, but your memories can be changed and skewed even based on or even caused by suggestion, right? And the whole way, there was something about the way your brain stores memory. It's not even attempting to be accurate. It's only keeping in what's relevant to adjust future action. It's not even trying to have like some kind of perfect record of what's going on, right? And so that is interesting to me because it makes me like, I don't know, it's almost like memory, it would seem like that would be the thing to prioritize, how good your memories are. You know, if life's about the journey, it's like, let's maximize how awesome my memories are. But it doesn't actually seem like that now. It seems like it's more like, don't prioritize how good your memories are, prioritize what you can do to, I don't know, solve problems easiest in the future or something like that.
So this is just something that occurred to me while you were talking. I don't know if I would say that the actual having happy memories makes you happy. It seems like living happy memories makes you happy, but not actually remembering them. Does that make sense? That's kind of what it seems like. Just thinking back through my childhood, like if I had this overall kind of happy childhood of like a lot of maybe small things, like every week we might have gotten ice cream or something. Maybe not like a specific event though, but it was like a happy childhood. Like, you know,
in general.
Like it seems like that has much more to do with your happiness now than your actual memory of happy events in your childhood. Like it actually happening is more important. So in some way, like it almost would make sense evolutionary to put more emphasis on what you focus on is to make happy events, not remember them. Because am I correct in this? Would you agree with that, or do you not?
I understand what you're saying, but because I've learned that positive emotion is only a result of observing yourself make progress toward a specific goal, then I would say...
Wait. Say that again, because I don't know if I agree with that.
I know for a fact that the way the serotonergic system and everything works, positive emotion...
Serotonin and
or dopamine,
like happy. What did you say?
I said positive emotion, all positive emotions. So that would include happiness.
I don't know if I would agree with that, because you can get very easy positive emotions not going towards...
Yeah, but like childhood happiness, like happy memory when I was a kid, let's say it was going to like a dinosaur museum with my dad, I would say that one of the reasons that was a happy memory and caused me happiness is because part of me had a goal of bonding with my father and part of me had a goal of seeing cool dinosaur bones. And so doing that made me like, this is a cool thing. This is awesome. I wanted to learn about dinosaurs, wanted to spend time with my dad. And that was a goal in some sense. And obviously there's consumatory reward and incentive reward, right? Consumatory reward would be if you're just hungry, you go eat, you get that. Obviously that's progression toward a goal, but it doesn't necessarily make you happy. Consumatory reward doesn't as much, but incentive reward is the one that causes the positive emotion. And that's goals like, oh, my end goal is to save $10,000 and I just put another $700 into savings. You know, it's the incentive reward, I guess, is the kind that drives you to keep going and to keep doing that thing you're doing. Like incentive reward is what's affected by like cocaine. It's like tells your thing. Dude, this is a really interesting thing I learned about like cocaine and other like strong stimulant drugs, is that it creates neurological structures that reinforce that activity over and over again, right? It's like it floods you with the success and I almost just spilled my coffee. The success and this was a good idea, this was a good decision, like thing. And alcoholics have that with alcohol, but some people don't. This was another interesting thing. I'm going on tangents now, but some people have this reaction to alcohol where it affects that system in a way where it's building a neurological structure that will reinforce them to do it again and again and again, but it's only the getting drunk that does that. It's not being drunk. So every continual shot or beer they have, it'll do that, but there's no end to it, right? And that's how you become an alcoholic. And that you can tell if you're prone to becoming an alcoholic by having you take your heart rate, you have 4 shots, and then 10 minutes later, check your heart rate again, and if it's gone up by at least 8 beats per minute, that means that it's affected the dopaminergic system and that you're prone to becoming an alcoholic. That's interesting to me. I've never done that test yet, but I told Ethan about that, and he's like, we should do that. And I was like, that'd be interesting. And I'm like, both of us were like, I'm so sure it wouldn't happen for us because we're not we drink so little and everything that it's like, there's no way that we feel that like insatiable desire to go drink again. But anyway, with the cocaine system, it does that every time for everybody. And the way that you stop it is, even if you stop taking cocaine for a super long time, it doesn't deteriorate that system. Or that's not how you get rid of it. It'll always be there. It's like you created a monster in your head that's always going to try to tell you to take more cocaine. And the way that you stop it is to build another system to suppress it by practicing not taking cocaine, and for in situations where you could take it, not taking it, rather than like if you're locked in a jail cell where you just physically can't get cocaine, it doesn't really help you control yourself to not take cocaine, right? But if you're out and about and you are making yourself not take it, or you go to or you're an alcoholic and you go to AA, you don't take alcohol for a long time, then you're building the suppressant system on top of the system that's trying to get you to take it and suppressing it. And that is the thing you want to make sure you have, but anyway, that's just interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very interesting. I'm also going to do some kind of aids. First of all, I need to go to the bathroom. So I'm going to go to the bathroom. Second of all, I'm going to finish this small plate of food. And I'll be right back.
Wait, you're gonna finish that while you're gone?
Yeah, it's like 2 bites of food.
Oh yeah, do that. Cool.
That's it.
Anyone watching this on YouTube or listening to this on YouTube, we are streaming this on Twitch right now, so I'm gonna try to stream these every time we record it, and it'll probably be at varying times. I mean, I think for the next 4 episodes, it's gonna be Tuesday mornings. I don't think it'll be that permanently, but it might be. And obviously not everyone can tune in on a Tuesday morning, but for those who can, feel free to go to my Twitch. I think it's called it's Our Buddy Samuel. Okay. So I stream almost nothing, but I'm going to probably try to stream these every time, and I'll probably stream when I edit. And that sounds retarded, and it is kind of retarded, but I did that like 3 or 4 times like a year ago, and I gained followers and I had views. I didn't even have my mic or camera on. It was just the display of me editing, and people tuned in for whatever reason. So I'll probably keep doing that. And then I also have been thinking about streaming when we record normal videos, either gaming videos or not all live action videos you can stream, if you're not filming on a computer. I mean, some of our live action videos like this are over Discord. We can stream those. So I'll try to stream. I'm just going to try to stream whatever I can, whenever I can. Not in general, but as far as my YouTube channels. But the live action videos that are filmed on phones and lavaliers and stuff that's not on a computer obviously won't be streamed. But yeah, so I'll do that. And I'm not going to put tons of effort into my Twitch. I really don't care that much if I become any kind of successful streamer by any means. I kind of hate the concept of streaming in general. The fact that it doesn't keep your progress and you can't kind of see the evolution of that person's humor or past activities or anything like you can on a YouTube channel. And the fact that it's not edited, so all of the humor that you get from potential edits that can be really funny, you lose. But I will say the live interaction with the audience is obviously the biggest, coolest thing you get. But becoming big on YouTube, or gaining an audience on YouTube, and then having them watch you when you stream now and then interacting with them, I think would be the ideal situation. But using streaming to get the audience just sounds like, first of all, it sounds like way more work than a YouTube channel. That's the other thing. People like Corey or different people I know, or Davin, that are trying to become successful streamers, it seems like it's way more effort than a YouTube channel. I mean, you have to stream on a schedule. You have to stream for many hours at a time. You have to be funny. You have to be funny live, like improv, which obviously for some people that's not hard, but all of that on a multiple times a week basis, I feel like if that same time was put into YouTube, first of all, your content would be funnier because you can cut out the unfunny parts. Second of all, you have that whole past, because the way that YouTube works is most YouTubers make their money from the past catalog of videos that they have, and then they are getting views from videos that were out 2 years ago or 5 years ago. And even if they skip like a week of not uploading, they're still racking in money because they're still getting thousands of views a day on all those previous videos. Streaming, you miss a week, you're pretty effed. Like, unless you're pretty big, you're kind of effed. You lose so much of your regular audience. And anyway, that's my point, is all that amount of time put into YouTube instead, learning how to edit, obviously, you know, that's a big thing that's going to weed people out, but that's just a weakness that you got to get over. That is what I would recommend. I don't see a flaw in this argument. I've thought about this a lot to try to be most efficient about this whole thing, and it's like, wow, you're really going to commit to not missing a day? Like, when you're starting out streaming, you can't mess up your schedule, right? You're going to commit to that and learn, you know, practicing being funny and staying high energy for hours at a time. On a whim, you're going to practice that. And you're going to have no previous catalog of videos. So all your money is going to have to be from current viewers, current followers, all of that. It's just like, it's crazy to me. But hey, you know, I guess what that tells me is that your main goal is actually to play that video game. It's not actually to build an audience. And I know you're like, oh yeah, that's what I care about. It's like, really? Then, but you're going to play Destiny or Overwatch or League of Legends for 4 or 5 hours a day. But I'm trying to gain an audience, I promise. No, I feel like you're addicted to the game, dude. That's the vibe I get, at least. Too much dopamine there, dude. You got to build something else to give you dopamine. That's what I think. But anyway, so that's my point, though, is I'm going to stream all of this, and I think it'd be cool. I'm going to see what Daniel thinks about that whole thing, so now you're going to hear me say the whole thing again.
I also grabbed this. I'm going to drink a little wine.
Cool.
That'll be cool. Just kind of spice things up.
So you saw my wine on my fridge, right? And you saw the cork that's in it is like a plastic cork that comes with a wine set. And you said that you think the wine's gone bad. Yeah. And I was like, what? And then I asked Trinity about it. She's like, I don't think there's any way it's gone bad. I was like, what? So I don't know who's right. I don't know what's going on with that.
Probably just look it up. Seems like something you could find out pretty easily.
That's true. But anyway, the reason I thought of that is because you got wine, and I was like, maybe I should go get wine. But I decided not to.
Could you?
I would, and I could, but in 1 hour, I have to bring my car somewhere. I'm bringing my car to Best Buy, and they're putting in a new radio set thing that's going to make it blue. Well, one of the things I get from it is normal Bluetooth, right? I'm still using the one you gave me like 3 years ago, the Bluetooth Perry. Connecting to Perry. And then I'm also having the front speakers in my doors replaced with better speakers. And one of the reasons for that is once the volume hits a certain level, Peterson's voice starts going, and then you order and chaos, and it's like, dang. Whoa! And I think it's because I've blasted too much music to where I'm assuming it's because I've ruined the speaker from volume. I don't know exactly how that works though, but that's an issue. So yeah, I'm gonna bring that in at 10. They're gonna put all that in. Hopefully Trinity will come pick me up right away so that I don't have to wait there for like an hour and a half. And that's one reason why I asked if we could record from 8 to 10 today instead of from 10 to 12. Yeah, but
that's okay. We can do wine another time for you.
I would love to do that. That would be funny. Let's do one episode of this where we get mega drunk, but like retard drunk, like we can't even remember to stop the recording, okay? A different episode where we're higher than we've ever been, dude. We force that. We eat 500 milligrams of THC. And then another one where we have the most mystical experiential or personality change on mushrooms that we've ever had. We literally take like 8 grams and we're just sitting there, just our faces are changing on our screen. That'd be hilarious. And then once, if we ever get a hold of LSD or cocaine or methamphetamine, and I'll call Ricky back up. Did I tell you my meth story?
The
The
like
guy
where
that gave me meth.
oh yeah, just gave you something. Yeah.
Well, I was assuming it was meth, but then when my dad saw it, he confirmed it was meth, and I'm 95% sure that was an accurate source. So yeah, it was meth, but it was crazy. But knowing that I could get a hold of meth if I tried is kind of funny to me.
That's weird. Yeah. Not everyone could say that. That's for sure.
I know. It is weird. And then I thought about even doing a thing. I mean, I didn't really think about this, but I could call the police or the police department and be like, I have a guy who gave me meth, and I threw it away now, but I could probably call him up and try to buy meth, and then you could catch a drug dealer. Is that anything you're interested in? You know, like if they witness me handing him money and him handing me meth, then they can go arrest him. Oh, I just farted.
Nice.
I just farted again. Oh.
Dang. Okay, here's the thing, though. It's like, who cares, though? If man's, like, just let a man be.
I know. I'm not really going to do it. That's the thing is it's just like... But the reason I thought about it is, am I obligated to is the point.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know.
Because if you thought that it would genuinely lead to, like, a better world... Sure, yeah. I would say, like, in that situation, maybe you have an obligation to do it.
Do you think that even to some degree it would limit the amount that drug dealers handed out free, like, created new drug addicts? Even
for you doing this?
Yeah, do you think if I were to do that, and it were to work, and the police were to actually go catch Ricky and all this stuff, that it would, to any degree, lower the potential of drug addicts in the world? So I feel like there's a possibility that it would.
I still take the stance. I don't think any drugs are inherently bad, right?
Yeah.
And on top of that, I think that a lot of bad things can happen from drugs, but I think people should be able to have that choice for themselves. And I think you doing anything that would take that choice away from people, even if like overall a drug might do more harm in the world, people still just kind of like need that choice for themselves.
Yeah, and the main conclusion I came to, the reason I did not do that is for that reason. It's like the way I want America to be is where people have the freedom to make their own mistakes and the freedom to go F up their whole life if they want, or do anything they want without the government or police or anything screwing with them, right? And me doing that would be like, really, dude? You know? Come on. Just don't take meth, right? You don't have to go arrest, a guy and all this stuff. Anyway, that's kind of for the same reason you just said. That's the same reason I didn't do it, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want that for people. It's like, if you want to take some meth, then I want you to have some meth to take.
Yeah, I just want people, if you want to shoot up a school, I want you to be able to buy guns. Dude, I watched a Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds in it last night.
Was that good? I have seen some.
I thought the plot was actually impressed me with because based on the advertisement, it didn't seem like that. I don't know if deep is the right word, but it's basically about these two people that write an algorithm for video game NPCs where they can learn in the same way that like a majorly intelligent artificial intelligence would learn, to where they could become sentient. Like they set it up in a way where based on all their experiences they can become sentient or something like that. They don't know that's what they're doing. They just create the best NPC algorithm, right? And then a larger video game company buys out their algorithm, takes it from them, and so they just sell out or whatever. And then in that bigger video game, which they basically create GTA, the bigger company like Rockstar Games creates GTA, but the underlying algorithm that they created the NPCs with was that one where they can learn. But they claim that they didn't use that algorithm. They go, no, this is our own game. We bought out that other place because we didn't want them to make their game, and we're just not doing anything with their algorithm. This is a different game we made, but really they secretly used that person's algorithm for the NPC. And then the main character of the show is an NPC that gains true consciousness and figures out like, yo, something's wrong with my whole world, and realizes it's fake, right? And he starts trying to be the good guy, and like, because GTA, obviously everyone's killing and blowing stuff up and all these retarded stuff going on. So he tries to go around and save people and, you know, return money to the banks and stop players. And obviously they kill him all the time, but he just respawns because he's an NPC. So he just goes and does it again. And people think that he's a player in real life that hacked the game to use an NPC skin. And they're like, yo, blue shirt guy, he's being a hero in a video game. And then they got like Ninja and Jacksepticeye and all of these Pokimane and all these people in real life filming videos to be like, it's so cool seeing a player try to be the good guy in GTA. That makes me rethink how I interact with NPCs. And, oh, the game's actually pretty fun when you try to be a good guy. And it's making all these people try to be good guys in the game. And then the main Rockstar company gets pissed off because they're like, part 2 to our game is way more carnage and gore and killing. And this is going to ruin the sales for it if someone's trying to teach everyone to be a good guy. So ban that player, get rid of him, we hate him. And they're like, we can't figure out how. There's no player here. You know, they're like, what is going on? Like, how is this hacker not showing up on our servers? And it's literally an NPC. And anyway, and then, you know, all kinds of other stuff happens. And there is some stuff about the plot that was kind of cringy. And there's a lot of cheesy stuff in the movie. And, you know, in a big way, it's for kids. But it's also got some funny Ryan Reynolds humor in there. And I thought it was worth watching. There's just a lot of stuff that's like, okay, that's pretty cringe. But I think the overall message was good because the main message was like, you know, try to be a good guy. And one thing that he tries telling people, he has all these friends that are NPCs that he's just programmed to be friends with.
Holy cow! Oh my gosh! Wow.
Is that AIDS? A lot of sneezes. His friends.
AIDS. It was literally AIDS. Sorry.
He goes up to his friends and goes, "You don't have to live in your loop anymore. Come." Try to be the good guy and change your life, and you can change everything in your life. And they're just too scared to. They're like, no, dude, I get up, I get coffee, I go to work, I go home. That's all I do, you know, because all the NPCs are in loops. And so the message, at least I derived from it, which I'm pretty sure was the goal, was make sure you're not living in a stupid loop and just letting the world happen to you. Like, go out and confront everything and try to change the world the way you want the world to be. And it was cool.
So one of the things that I wrote down recently, I'm going to see if I can actually find this. So, well, basically, all it was saying, oh, this is it. I feel like this is the season of my life that I established myself as a player in the game of life. And I just think that's a funny analogy. What?
Do you think you haven't done that to the extent? Are you saying to another extent, or do you think that you weren't doing that very well before or something like that?
I think like this past year, like, you know, 2020-ish is kind of when I really set out on my own individual path more.
Okay.
You know, it seems like I went, like, in some way, it's like I feel like I'm choosing a lot of things for myself now rather than like the way that I was just kind of like raised or the influence that people have had on me. Like, I'm choosing things. And even more than that, I feel like I've gotten this kind of like a better like meta understanding of how like the world works and how I work also. Like, something I've tried to be conscious of is like who I'm keeping around me and who I'm listening to a lot. Just any influences that I have, because I want to make sure that adds up to the person that I want to be. And so like I've been intentional about even like not watching some YouTube channels or not listening to some podcasts or stuff like that, because I don't think that me surrounding myself with certain people is like beneficial to who I am.
Yeah. What are a couple things you? Oh, sorry.
I just said that's one thing that like has made me feel like my own player, because I've been choosing a lot of things, like very intentional, rather than like I'm hanging out with whoever I'm hanging out with.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's really good. I was gonna ask who is a couple of the either podcasts or YouTube channels you've cut out, and what are a couple you've added intentionally?
I think for a long time now, I haven't well, like maybe since March of 2020, I haven't really watched any like gaming channels or anything gaming related. And I think I don't necessarily think that that's like just an objectively good thing, but I think for my life right now, that's been a good thing. I've definitely focused a lot more on like listening to Jordan Peterson, but dude, we talk about Jordan Peterson so much, it's almost a meme. But like at this point, one of the reasons why I listen to him still is because I think surrounding myself and like having him as an influence on my life would be a net positive for me. And so I think like if I'm listening to Jordan Peterson for 2 hours a day, a significant amount of who I am is going to be influenced by him. And I think that's almost like the benefit of an influencer. Like I think if people were truly, if they understood the power that influencers have on them just inherently, they would be much more careful on who to pick.
Dude, I 100%
or like who to follow and that kind of thing. And so it's like like this is an interesting thought experiment that I did of if I could only listen or follow or watch content from like 5 celebrities or 5 people, who would I be? And I would be very careful to choose people that are close to who I want to become. You know? So you know like that question that we talked about a lot when we went to Alaska of like if you could be the combination of like 5 different people, who would those 5 people be?
Yep.
And I think that's a question that people can ask because you can almost make yourself that. Like, think about this. If you're like, let's say you were an antisocial person, you just didn't have a lot of friends. If you constantly the only people that you ever watch content from or like followed on Instagram or had these fake social connections with were people like Jordan Peterson or Dave Ramsey, or like one for me is like Logan Paul. Like I think his work ethic is insane and his strive to be successful is great and that kind of thing. Like you can force yourself to just be the person that you want to be just by surrounding yourself by the 5 people that encapsulate all those things.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this on this podcast before. The proximity principle, that becoming the average of your 5 biggest influencers, whether that's not only online influencers, but also friends or family that you spend the most time with. It's like, that's a crazily true and accurate statistic to live by, and focusing on, okay, who's influencing me the most today or in general in my life right now? Like PewDiePie or my friend, or, you know, who is it? Yeah, I definitely, even you saying this has made me think about like how I kind of almost want to cut out maybe some of the YouTubers that I watch, right? The only YouTubers I watch are PewDiePie, Jax Films, and Mr. Beast. But and there is good things about all of them, right? Like I do think some of them are funny, and I try to like analyze PewDiePie and his content when I watch it, and different things like that. But if that were to be replaced with more Jordan Peterson-esque type things, I think that would be, that this conversation's made me want to reconsider that, because I remember for a long time when I was getting in like toward the last section of high school, I started watching tons of these really cringy success YouTube channels, you know, where like the positive music starts, "Good morning, success, you know, success members. Remember that today you're going to have the greatest day you've had. Get up, brush your teeth, have a shower, get ready for the day, have a healthy breakfast. You can do this, guys." And like stuff like that. And I literally had like 3 or 4 channels I was subscribed to that I would watch almost daily just for that. And even though I kind of recognized it was pretty cringe and most of the videos were almost the same thing, it genuinely made me like, I would try to use that and everything. And now that evolved into watching Joe Rogan, but only guests that are self-help type people, David Goggins and stuff like that. And that is how I found Jordan Peterson, was through Joe Rogan and doing that from those first YouTube channels. Yeah. But it's weird seeing the evolution and what it led to, because I've been on the self-help path for 4 or 5 years, And that the end section of that so far, at least, has reached Jordan Peterson. And I think eventually it's going to reach Nietzsche and Carl Jung and Dostoevsky.
Okay, listen, I brought this up of doing like a book study or something like that, but I agree that we should eventually move to some of those very, very famous philosophers and psychologists. Those would be worth going through together, I feel like. We're doing even if it was something on like this podcast or whatever that we would talk about, it's like, oh, we just read another chapter of
Beyond Good and Evil or
Beyond Good and Evil or something like
Paradise Lost.
Mm-hmm. I actually got Beyond Good and Evil on Audible. That was one that I could find. Let me make sure it was actually that one. No, it was Crime and Punishment.
Crime and Punishment. Yeah, that was one I was going to recommend that I would totally read. Who wrote that one again?
Dostoevsky.
Yeah. I've heard a lot about that book. That sounds so interesting. And that's a mega popular.
I really want to read this one. Really want to.
Yeah.
Dude, did you know even since our...
I assume you'll want this part edited out?
One of the distinctions that's happened for me in my beliefs recently is that I don't necessarily know if my morals have to come from God, because I can't prove that God exists and like a metaphysical reality, right? And so it's like saying that all of my morals come from this metaphysical reality might not even be like almost what you're talking about. It's like almost maybe not even helpful to say that, right? Because then it's like you can't just learn the same way. Like if you're stuck in God has all the correct information, then you can't look. It almost seems like you can't look elsewhere for truth.
Yeah, it almost locks you into a unidimensional
ideology.
Well, like a unidimensional angle of looking at things, right? It's almost like it prevents you from being able to consider other things if you're that locked into it.
Yeah. And something I talked about with Jarrett last night when we went to like the open mic was I think like in my life when I have participated in like worship at church, that's almost something that has kept me in this one mindset. And it's actually kind of, I'm not trying to make an argument that I like shouldn't do that or whatever, because I'm still not actually sure. Like I'm trying to find that process. But for me, it seemed like I should be more careful about like what I'm doing. And especially when it comes to like worship in particular, that seems like something that can make you feel so content. Like it's like you are choosing to like live in this level of goodness. You're envisioning this level of good and love and peace and joy so much in like a time of worship that it's like this fake sense of security or this fake sense of that almost.
That's a super good way to put it.
Yeah. This is just something I've thought about, and like I want to be careful what I'm like even going back to the influencers, like the people that you keep around you. So because humans, I'm thinking kind of as I talk, so this might not make sense, but because humans personalize like everything that we come in contact with, like we try to like see faces in stuff that there's not actual faces, and we humanize things that aren't living. I almost feel like we could very easily do that in worship, especially because we're constantly in this emotional place, filling ourselves, like intentionally filling ourselves with as much emotion and goodness and positive energy or whatever we want to say as we can. And that I think could have a bad outcome that leads us to not actually move forward in our life.
Yeah, that's a super good way to put it. One thing I was going to say, which I think just validates your point, is there's been times where like I've gone with you to church and stuff where I've had extremely emotional, really good like religious experiences doing the Christian worship sections. And I think part of that is coming from that there's extreme comfort and security in reinforcing the message that the people you're around all believe that this specific set of values and this specific belief set is so true and it's so locked in and 100% sure that knowing that that's a thing gives you extreme comfort. It's like, look, here is all the answers. It's right here. And you're like, yes, finally. And it's like such a good feeling, because telling yourself no one knows the answers, you know, the questions are always out there. Is this like, it gives you anxiety, and it's like, no way. But suddenly someone going, look here, look, it's all here, all the answers. It's the truth, the permanent, nothing can argue this, nothing can go against this. This is fact. It's like, oh, it's okay, finally, it's out there, right? And so, but falling back into the chaos and the not knowing is just so stressful. But I do see where that can come from, or how that could lead to negative things, right? It's blind. It's blinding yourself in a way, but it's more like focusing yourself only on this, right? Not necessarily blinding. It's more like, I'm trying to find a way to conceptualize it differently. Like, if you're so extremely fundamentalist, like, not fundamentalist, Christian, you know, completely Christian in everything you do, you're focused on that I'm going to view the world through this lens and this lens only. The lens that the Bible, you know, literally happened, everything's through the lens of this. It's like, that is a really good way to view the world, and you're not going to go wrong in a lot of ways, and that's what the Bible's for, I think. It's like, I try to view a lot of the religious structures that exist is almost like a bootstrapping for values. It's like, if you don't know where to go yet and you're kind of a lost like individual, you can use those to find a really good way to live you know, this life, and it will work. It's good, right? The Christian one is the best one. It's the one I think is the best one, at least. But there's still more. You can grow even more to realize that and see that and take those things from it, but then also look at it from all these other ways. It's like, here's an example of what I mean. You know how we were saying that the self-help path I've gone on has led me to Jordan Peterson so far, and that going past that, I assume, would be stuff like Nietzsche and Dostoevsky and things like that, right? One thing that's interesting to me that I think those lack that Jordan Peterson doesn't is he will not only show you the things those guys taught or discovered or conceptualized, but he will also validate them with evolutionary science, neurobiology, the way the brain works, and that stuff that those guys surely not only didn't know about, but they weren't living in the time where science had realized those things. And Peterson can go, Nietzsche said this about the structure of reality or the structure of humans. And he realized that at a time where he couldn't even use brain science to validate what he was saying. He just, through a level of abstraction higher than anyone else, saw enough human activity that he was able to extract these overall like patterns of behavior, right? And so Jordan Peterson went, okay, he noticed that. That's insanely intelligent and cool. But look, neurobiologists realized this about the brain, and it perfectly fits in. And so that further validates that this guy was mega genius, that he was able to abstract that far. And it's like, I don't think that reading those ancient philosophers they're going to have the messages they have, but for me, having the biology and the evolutionary evidence and the mythical history of, you know, Egyptian and Mesopotamian creation stories and Christian creation stories, and the similarities between those, matching, looking at the world through the fundamental reality is order and chaos, and the embracing of suffering, and the, you know, confronting the unknown, and all of this stuff tying together perfectly. It's almost like every domain of history and religion and myth and science and neurobiology and human behavior and psychology all validated itself into this fundamental, like, this is it. This seems like the answer to so many questions I had, that answered it deeper. Maybe deeper is the wrong word, but better than religion ever did for me. But religion is the biggest thing that validated all of those for me. Him using religion to validate what ancient philosophers and what other creation stories have said, and what neurobiology says, and what, this is the weirdest one, is religion validating evolution was the weirdest one to me. That one was like, that's like, this is why so the last few times you and I have hung out, it's almost become an argument where the specific topic about the Bible, I can't get a point across, and I definitely think it's way more my fault than yours. I don't think it's your fault at all. I just start getting frustrated that I can't explain something. And so I tried thinking about it later, and I think the best way to describe what I'm saying is, I don't think the Bible is true literally. If you're talking about it from an empirical point of view, as in it's a historical document of what happened, I don't think that's what happened. But I do think it's true. What it's saying is true, and what it's trying to show us is true. It's right? But it's not right literally, is what I think. Yeah. But I think that the way that it is right is way more... again, this is probably where you disagree, is more useful and cooler, and makes me like, yo, the Bible... Because like, it being a historical document is one thing, and if that story happened, it's crazy and it's true. But if what I now think the Bible is true, that's way more crazy. That's a feat of human literature and abstraction and study that is beyond what I thought humans were capable of. And so it almost brings you to tears at how beautiful and amazing that feat of achievement is to me. And it's like crazy to me. And that made me respect and like the Bible way more than me before thinking it was a historical document and listing these miracles that happened and this magic that happened in the past. Like, that alone is cool enough, right? That was like, yeah, it's awesome. But looking at it from this other way is so much more like, yo, this is crazy. It's like, it's basically, the way I look at it at least, is for thousands of years we witnessed what reality was and what humans were and how we behaved and how we should behave. And then we wrote stories to hold those principles and to show you what to do, but then we distilled them to be more and more and more simple and accurate and still hold the same values until we could condense, what would be hours and hours and hours, maybe even years of lectures and explaining, distilled into like 14 sentences of the Cain and Abel story, right? And that's one reason why different preachers can get up there on stage, or is that what they're called in Christian, like the guys that go up? That's why you can have thousands of preachers interpreting the story thousands of ways and deriving thousands of messages from the same story. It's because that was intentional, and then that was done in a way that's like the most condensed book ever written, where it's like sentences, there's only 14 sentences here, but they hold the answers to thousands of problems. And this achievement to have this book written is like, that's insane. It makes you want to study that book infinitely.
Yeah. I've listened to like his explanations of a lot of like the stories in Genesis, and like, like we've talked about this. I haven't actually gone through the biblical series or whatever, but I heard all of that, like the whole story of him explaining Cain and Abel. I think I've heard that in like maybe 3 or 4 different settings with him.
Yeah, but I've heard that story explained by other people too, with totally different messages.
Right. Yeah. And I do, like, I kind of agree with that standpoint. And I think the reason that our conversation always gets to the point where it becomes an argument. So let me try to get your point down. So you think
I have to pee really, really bad. Can I?
You got it.
30 seconds.
Cheers. Oh man.
All right, I'm back.
Hi back. I'm Daniel. It's so funny.
I feel nauseated
right.
at that joke.
Yeah, from that joke. Heck yeah. So you're trying to say, like in that story, that Cain and Abel were not historical people that did not physically exist on this as described in the story.
I'd say it's possible that when choosing the characters, they derived it. It's possible that it was derived from a literal story they knew, right?
But
a brother killed a brother.
God said, "I'm not pleased with you, and that I am now angry, and I'm going to kill my brother."
I think it's way more likely that him turning to God and asking the thing he asks in the story, that it's more like seems more likely to me that that is symbolizing his self-reflection and guilt and basically just asking reality itself, like, yo, what did I do, and then realizing that the guilt he would feel from then on was a larger punishment than he'd be able to bear, because that's what he says to God, right? God says, I'm going to punish your whole lineage and all this stuff, and he's like, that's worse than I can bear, and that it's also trying to symbolize you can't kill your ideal. Anyway, I'm just repeating the Jordan Peterson's interpretation at this point, but but I'm not saying that there's never two people that were named Cain and Abel, and then the brother killed the brother.
No, I'm not trying to straw man your argument, but I'm just trying to get the point across. Like, this is what you think that that's not a historical thing, but that represents a truth for humanity.
Yeah.
Truer than true. Like how Jordan Peterson always said that. Yes, it's so true that it doesn't actually have to happen for it to be true.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't think that's a cop-out in a way. I think that the issue where people think it's a cop-out is when they're interpreting the word belief or true as in literally empirically happened.
I agree. I also don't think that this belief is necessarily a cop-out or that this could be true. I think the cop-out comes when people don't desire to know the truth. And that's when I think that this argument becomes an argument. Is because there's a lot of, like, from a pragmatist view, you, Eli Brown, are the pragmatist. Everything that you've ever believed seemingly has been focused on being pragmatic.
You think so?
But this is the thing, though. More than being pragmatic, I genuinely believe that it is more important for me, and this is the values that I'm trying to take on, and the ideal that I have is that what is true is more important than a pragmatic ideal, like a pragmatic belief, a functional belief.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is something that Jordan Peterson has talked. So Jordan Peterson and Brett Weinstein went on Joe Rogan's podcast, right? Mm-hmm. And something that they talked about, like Brett and Jordan were talking about how, like, these truths of do you remember this argument of, like, porcupines shoot their needles or whatever?
I don't remember that. I know I've seen that, but I don't remember.
So they said that, and that's not a biologically true statement. They don't, right? You just can get hit by it, can charge you, and spike you with some needles. But people think that it shoots you, and that keeps you safe, right? So, like, what Brett was saying is that's a true belief. But Joe Rogan was saying, like, that's still dumb, though. It's not true, so stop saying it. Even though that gives people an advantage in life to think.
I agree with Rogan's point more, and that's the point you're making, right? Is that what literally happened and figuring that out will, in the long run, benefit you more is actually a better idea than just going, well, this might not be literally true, but it's going to help me more, so I'm going to believe that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with that. And what I was saying is, I think that if, let's say I'd never heard of Jordan Peterson or any form of interpretation of anything, right? And I stumbled upon the Bible and I went, yo, this is a crazy story. I want to figure out if this happened, like historically, that through the pursuit of trying to figure that out, if you were to study everything, study neurobiology, evolution, scientific theory, study history, study everything, I think eventually you would reach the conclusion that, oh, this is the deepest abstraction that's ever happened. It didn't literally happen, but it holds all of these principles. I think that is what happened. I think that's true.
Right.
And so maybe the reason that and I'm not believing that because it's more useful. That's not why I'm believing it. I genuinely think that that's not only more likely, but that's the truth. I think it didn't literally happen.
Listen to the finish of my argument. I think that I agree. I still agree with what you've said, and I don't invalidate that. That is a valid view for you to hold. What I have gotten to, like the point that I've gotten to, is whether or not I lean towards it being true. I do find some importance in continuing to pursue whether or not the metaphysical reality of the Bible is real or not.
Yeah,
I think for you to make that statement that you believe that this is not a historical thing, I think that's valid, and I don't even think that necessarily changes the way that you act. But the reason that I've kept on saying that this is a cop-out and that it's become an argument is because that seems attached to the lack of continuing to pursue the truth.
Yeah. Okay, so I wonder if it would be a good mutual conclusion for both of us then, for me to say, because I've never tried to say, it didn't happen, this is how you should look at it, you shouldn't pursue it anymore, right? I 100% think that, because, I mean, there's been sections in my life where I probably would have died. If someone put a gun to my head, I would have said, I believe the Bible literally happened, and been shot to death. Yeah. There was points like that, right? And trying to loosen that close-handed belief and attempting to view it in a different way, like, which is probably when I watched the biblical series, trying to view it from a different way, made me go, okay, that's interesting, because now I think it's more likely, like statistically and probability-wise, that it didn't happen literally. But that's not at all to say the metaphysical reality that it suggests isn't real. That's not at all to say you shouldn't continue pursuing and seeing if that didn't literally happen or if it did. I'm not making the conclusion that this is how it is. Because I've had close-handed beliefs like that in the past, I'm not going to close-hand this one, right? I'm not going to say that's the truth in an empirical sense. I'm just going to say that's definitely what seems way more likely to me as of right now and everything I've heard. I mean, maybe if I were to read the book like A Case for Christ or something like that, it would change my mind, right? It's entirely possible.
Yeah.
And I'm also aware that I'm kind of in an echo chamber with Jordan Peterson. Like, that's another thing you got to be aware of is, it's one thing he talked about is that it's funny using something he said to give evidence for why the stuff he says could be wrong. But one thing he said is, what happens for a lot of people is the first philosophy they come across, like if they've never experienced different philosophies in high school or whatever, that when they read Carl Jung for the first time or something, it's seemingly so deep and so true to them that they will become an ideologue for that way of looking at the world, because these great thinkers can frame things in a way that's like, how can you argue with that, right? But so people will become so attached to that then they won't look at anything else. And one of the Q&A questions that was sent in is, what do you say to people that say that the Jordan Peterson whole belief set is an ideology and that we're only becoming ideologues to you, and that, you know, that goes against your teachings, but that's what we're doing for you. So what do you say to that? And he said it's common that people become an ideologue for the first philosophy they come across. And I would say that Jordan Peterson's probably, I mean, besides the Bible, is probably the first philosophy that I've stumbled on, and it makes sense why I'm getting so locked into it. And I'm telling myself that because he talks about other philosophies, you know, like the phenomenologists and the Carl Jung and this religion and this, and he talks about all of them, that it's a more accurate one. That's what I tell myself, at least. But yeah, I'm totally aware that it could change when I were to read a different person or find a different way of looking at the world. Maybe I get way into Sam Harris in the future and think his stuff's more accurate. I don't know.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah. That was actually a satisfying conclusion to that argument, that you just had a shift during the biblical series that made you think that it is now more likely that it didn't literally happen.
Yeah.
Because I would say that one of, at this point, the major differences between me and you, like religiously, is that I am more likely to say that it did happen.
Yeah.
Or that is what my answer would be, that
it happened.
I lean towards it did happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of why, for some reason, I don't know why that was hard for me to get across, is I would never say don't pursue it anymore. And what I'm saying is definitely true. And there's no way it happened literally. Like, I would never say that, right? I mean, in fact, that is such a insanely complicated book that if I found out that not only is it an extreme level of abstraction, and that it's all of that, but that it also literally happened, and that Jesus came down and had that story happen so that it is that deep and everything, that would also be a satisfying conclusion. Like, that would be interesting. I just think it's less likely. That's the only thing. And so that's because, like, a weird example is, like, let's say God literally made a whale eat Moses, literally. Or or compared to the idea that being in the belly of the beast was a internal mental struggle of not doing what you should do. It's like, either way, it's like teaches the same message, right? Being in the belly of the beast is something we experience in an internal mental way when we don't do something that reality told us to go do and urged us to do, whether that was a literal God that he heard a voice that said, go do this, or whether it was the way his life was set up and he went, oh my gosh, I should go do this. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to hide from it, right? Either way you look at it, it's like, derive the same message. That's what matters, right? Not that what literally happened doesn't matter. That also matters. But how we should live and everything is what I want to figure out. And so, yeah.
One of the things that I've thought about a lot recently in trying to, like, in terms of actions that I can take going forward, is whether or not I want to pursue going to, like, a church still, right? And so this is something I was thinking about a few days ago, was whether or not, like, the action that I could take is, like, not only just going to a church, but, like, really being a part of, like, that community, of surrounding myself with those people, investing myself in that, letting that take up a portion of my life. And it is just interesting because I find so much importance in pursuing whether or not the metaphysical reality is real or not, but I don't know if what is most helpful is to go to a church. It seems like, this is my best argument for it, is that they believe that the Bible has a lot of good wisdom and truth, and I also believe that. And I don't think that they would be unwelcoming to people that have maybe views. Different views, but just like a lack of wholehearted belief that it is real, because, like, you can't prove it. And I think that would be a stance most likely that I would just hold for a very long time. Like, that's not, I hope that that's a stance that I can hold for the rest of my life, but yeah, I don't know. I've just been trying to think whether or not, like, that is the place, like, because me and you both agree that it's important to pursue, is that a place that actually fosters a healthy pursuit of that? And I don't know. I don't know that answer, because it does kind of seem to me that, like what we were talking about, like with worship songs and stuff like that, that it could be dangerous from, like, an ideological standpoint to surround people with that kind of beliefs. But also, I think, like, the conclusion that I came to is I'm just going to go in there very, like, headstrong, but humble and willing to learn. I want to follow the rule of like I expect they know something that I don't, but I'm going to be very forward about my personal beliefs and questions and like this is where I think you're wrong in trying to point out things as that. And like that's why like quickly I've been pondering this tattoo idea of like doubt, intrigue, verify. Just doubt, intrigue, doubt it, ask a question, verify it. Doubt it, ask a question, verify it.
Yeah.
And yeah, because that's become such a high value. You know, like when we talked about like principles like a long time ago, that's like it seems like that's what we can base our life upon. That doubting things is like a principle that serves you well in the long term.
Yep, 100%. Doing that tattoo and then having an arrow go from verify back to doubt, so that you're also doubting the verifications you've already made, would also be kind of cool.
like a repeating cycle or anything like that. Yeah.
I mean, it's a good question because the fact that, I mean, of course, being aware. Huh?
Listen, I just got a cool idea. I want to interrupt really quick. What if I did it like on my arm? Like, you know how people get like a crown or something, a cross or like something circular that goes all the way around it? What if I had doubt, intrigue, verify going in a circle around, so it would just lead, like you could just read it in a circle?
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, cool.
That would be pretty cool. Do it around your pee-pee.
Yeah, that'd be dope. Just right on the head.
Yep, doubt, like, intrigue, verify right there.
Ooh, maybe it's increments. It's like, it's every inch or something. It's like, ooh, did you like that doubt? Now you got intrigue.
Ready to get
now
intrigue.
You got verify. And you're like, whoa.
I've never seen a conversation go from so deep to so retarded that quickly. Yeah, I'd say doing that and going into a church from that perspective, as long as you're aware of your history with Christianity and that you're probably more prone than a new goer to get sucked back into what could be an ideology and what could prevent you from seeking some deeper truth, going into it with that there's two possible outcomes, right? One is that they see this new person come in that doubts and then see them get completely sucked in and absorbed, and then it verifies their own, like, okay, this is true. But another possibility that could happen is you go in doubting, and no matter how much evidence, or I don't know if evidence is the right word, but no matter how much you're surrounded by that, you're still like, yeah, but it also could be wrong. No matter what, it could save some people that are already stuck in that to start questioning and being like, yo, let me start considering. Like, I haven't even seen people come into my life that have that question this deeply. And maybe it will start getting more people like that to start looking at Jordan Peterson and some of these other things. And that, I would say, from my point of view, is the better alternative. But again, I don't know. Would you be willing? And this is a big question. You live in where you live, and I live in Logan. 2-hour drive, right? What if we both drove an hour to a Christian church every Sunday so that we could go to church together? Be an hour drive though, in like Layton or Ogden or something.
Dude, the problem is that I've already found a church that I'm thinking about going to.
Yeah, I want to find a Christian church to go to. Trinity and I have talked about it, and I'm gonna start going to one, but I would rather try to find a Bible study or youth group type thing, or rather than the worship. I want to skip the worship section is my point. I want to try to find the whatever class or whatever it's called every day.
I'm gonna challenge you really quick. Just while you're saying this, I don't think that that's necessarily a good idea, because I think that even for people that don't necessarily like lean towards believing in it, I think the idea of what worship is actually something that can be valuable for a lot of people, because it's like for you.
I'm not saying it's bad or anything. Like,
it's like worshiping the ideals that you see as like the highest level of good and the highest level of service for others and love for people, of being like Jesus dying on the cross.
Yeah,
that's something that is worth meditating and even worshiping almost.
Yeah,
like
100%.
That almost is like more true level, because you're talking about the story of a perfect being that is dying for the sins of everyone. And Jordan, and that's something that whenever I think about, like I can see worshiping that. And so I think when I was talking about being careful with worship, my goal, I think, with that is
making sure
I'm not
reinforcing your ideal, not Jesus as a human that lived.
Not even necessarily like that. But yes, but I want to make sure I'm not using worship as I am in community with the ideal, but rather I am so far away from the ideal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a very weird way of saying this. Like, this is the ideal. I don't want to be the Christian that goes into worship and being like, I don't know how to like say this. Like, I'm trying to think of examples, but like saying, like I believe or I pursue or I do this, I do that, blank, like saying, like basically putting like yourself into a worship song, I think always is going to lead, not always, maybe. I want to be careful by saying like an always statement, but it is a recipe for a situation where you think that you are closer to the ideal than you actually are.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I totally get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of benefit. Like yesterday, I was singing "Amazing Grace" to myself. Like I sang it multiple times because I was just thinking about that. It's like that is such a good song of like, because you are repeating the idea that you are a bad person that needs amazing grace. And I think that is a powerful message that is worth being sung in worship, but I don't think it's worth saying that I do all these good things.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like it's a weird different saying the same things, but looking at it from a different way can be so valuable. I can't believe how bad I want to keep talking, but I have to get my car to Best Buy. So that kind of sucks, but I thought it was a super fun conversation. Really good one.
Yeah.
Dude,
are you ending the recording right now?
I'm going to pretty soon. I was going to say this Jesus statue I have on my shelf right there. I had this, and I had a big picture of Jesus that was hanging on my wall in my last room, and I was going to get rid of both of them because they had always symbolized something different for me that I felt like I was over, and now I feel like they symbolize something way cooler and better than they did before, and now I 100% want to put them in places of extreme dignity, and it's weird because it's like...
Another thing. So this is another thing that I can almost relate to you with is, so when I got to these new like beliefs and like the things that I'm talking about right now, I've started so I don't know if I've talked to you a lot about this, but dude, I have been writing so much, like random thoughts and like when I have a problem that I'm trying to work through, getting it down on paper has been like very helpful for me. But anyways, I've been writing like a ton, and I've recently started, when I was pondering just about like what God is and like the ideal that it is, I started capitalizing God because it was like, this is so important. And I want to make sure that when people read what I'm writing about, they know how, because it's almost interchangeable. When I say God in a sentence, that you could just place your perfect ideal.
Yep.
And the best possible thing, you can just replace it. So that's why I've started to capitalize. It's like, it's mind-blowing when you think about just like how important this is. And it's like, even in this situation where I almost feel like I have less faith, it's become like a bigger deal.
It's reinforced it. I know, it's so weird. It's like, anyway, we both get it. I want to keep talking about this, but yeah, I gotta go. Congratulations on being such an intelligent, smart, seeker of the truth and knight through reality. So
yeah,
good job.
Heck yeah.
It was
a good episode.
I agree. This was probably my favorite one so far. This subject probably won't be the funnest for our friend group to listen to, but it's the funnest to talk about. This is kind of where I wanted these conversations to get to, because I also think talking is such a curative. It's not only curative, but you're also learning while you're talking, if that makes sense. Like bringing abstracted thought into articulation cements them so much better within yourself that talking out loud, it's the reason writing is also so helpful, right? Like saying this stuff to each other and getting it into sentences and forcing yourself to do that just structures it in your brain so much better, I feel like. So it's like therapy. So I like it.
Heck yeah, dude. Well, this is how much I got through that bottle.
No wonder the conversation was getting deeper and deeper.
This is not a super high percentage. It's only 7.5%. It's like drinking a hard Mike's.
It's wine.
So, yeah. All right. Well, good episode, my guy. The recording is over, correct?
Nope, I haven't stopped recording yet. Let's say goodbye. Bye-bye.
Bye.